All right, here we go. Welcome, Rinkcast, to Season 3, Episode 20 of the Rink, the-rink.com's Blackhawks Rinkcast, live from the COVID-19 studios, the luscious COVID-19 studios. And, oh, look, we have CT on the line, too. Today is Monday, June 22nd, 2020, and I'm your host, Jeff Osborn, infamously known on the Twitters as Puck and Hostile. And also, I have my co-host, partner in crime, Mr. John Jaeckel. Hello, sir. Howdy. Cool. And also, we have some pioneers of the Blackhawks podcasting world, the gentleman, and I use that term lightly, from HockeeNight. We have Forklift, who is at HockeeNight on Twitter, and HockeeNight's CT.
That's me.
Yep. And you guys, I was trying to come up with a good comparison. You know, it's not like Jake and Elwood or anything like that, like Penn and Teller. Only this time around, the Teller actually talks.
Nah, we're like the Smith brothers, those two dudes on the cough drop box.
Here we are to the early references going on. But
Fork, did Lori buy that hat for you in case you get lost wandering around, not know where you are in downtown Evanston?
Actually, the very fine Mighty Mike D bought this hat for me in the Nashville area.
Nashville area.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you spelled fork right then.
Yeah, I'm surprised I was like something Gaelic.
You know, he's an eat with his hands kind of guy.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
So are we actually. So anyway, it's been a while since we've actually got together and talked about anything, because there hasn't been really too much to talk about. And then, of course, a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of unrest in the country. It wasn't really the time to really be talking hockey, I didn't feel. So we kind of just kept our mouths shut, which is something we don't normally do. But just let everything happen as it happened, and support Black Lives Matter, and just keep my butt out of everyone else's business for a little while. So, but anyway,
any part of your butt.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
That was more the time to be talking about the Police Academy movies. Great timing, but
yeah, we were exceptional there.
Bazinga!
I pulled some special clips. Mr. Forklift wanted us to pull some special clips, so I did.
Bazinga! I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Jeremy Collin himself.
I got plenty more where that came from. So
You suffered a recent blow to the head?
That is pretty fitting for old Jeremy.
Yeah, I pulled a couple of times like this one.
And had already achieved more than most of you could ever hope to, despite my 9 o'clock bedtime.
I figured that would fit too.
Yeah, I don't know how far into his coaching career he was. And I was watching a game, I was like, he looks like that fucking dude from Big Bang Theory.
Aced it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, hence Coach Bazinga was born.
Yeah. And I'm on board with it. I am. Jim Parsons got a little bit shorter hair, but other than that, he let his hair grow out a little bit. It would be real close.
Yeah. And then he puts on his glasses and he looks like Stephen Merchant, a short Stephen Merchant.
Awesome reference. Everyone's going, what? So, well, as far as hockey goes, as far as the Blackhawks go, as far as the NHL goes, they're in phase 2 right now, where they are they're letting people work out at the facilities, but they're only small groups.
Swimmingly.
Yeah, no kidding. I was just gonna say that the other day. You had the people, the Lightning that tested positive, some Phillies players tested positive, some other people tested positive, all in Florida. And now I think it was
one of hockey's biggest stars.
Yeah, Austin Matthews. Which, he's in Arizona. Yeah, it's going swimmingly. Perfect.
So when do you think the playoffs will start?
2021.
Yeah, I'd say April 2021. The playoffs of the 2021 season.
Yeah, they're acting like they're still just moving
I
forward.
Think that's aggressive, to be honest.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah. You were right.
Yeah, I mean, they just keep acting like they're moving forward, but it's just becoming more and more evident that, they're going to have this hub city thing. You're going to have 500 plus athletes, plus support staff, plus all this other stuff. All these people, you cannot keep them. And John, I know you have something to say about this, the bubble thing, where they'll just keep them in a bubble. Yeah, in Las Vegas, you're going to keep 1,000 people in a bubble in Las Vegas for 2 months.
Yeah,
come on.
The whole thing is just preposterous, and I think what they're trying to do is, I think they're trying to get, they keep pushing out all these, all these social media crap and photos, and look at Brinksy showing up, it's like, I think that they're trying to drum up about this and sort of absolves them of any responsibility from a perception standpoint of, if anybody gets sick, what have you. Well, it's, we were just doing what the fans wanted. It just defies logic that anybody who has any understanding of, and you don't have to be a scientist. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I get it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
You're not?
I mean, no,
I thought you had a PhD from Johns Hopkins.
No, that was
That's what I heard.
That's the alleged guy that I was talking to yesterday who claimed that he had a PhD from Hopkins, and he's like, "Oh, it's no big deal. This is all overblown." It's like, no, there's no PhD from Hopkins in epidemiology who's saying that right now. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
And
there's no one that works in the area of science that's saying that this is overblown.
Right. Epidemiology, you don't get a PhD, you get an MD.
Well, he had said he had an MD. He also said he had a PhD too. I was tempted to ask him what his dissertation was in and tell me some articles he published, but
it was like some guy that was like John 863425567 with an egg, and he followed like 5 people, and he's going to tell us.
And he's doing Twitter Thursday.
Yeah, he's got an MD in epidemiology from the Johns Hopkins, and he's telling us that the COVID-19 is all overblown. It's not that big a deal. Okay.
The guy was trying to sound really professorial, but he really wasn't doing that good of a job of it. I mean, it was like, I think what he was trying to do is he was representing like the city of Vancouver, because he kept saying how Vancouver was a perfect place to have it because they don't have a high caseload there. And I'm like, dude, it doesn't, the relative caseload where you are doesn't really matter. What matters is 25 guys in close proximity on hockey benches with water bottles around, in dressing rooms, like knocking the snot out of each other on the ice in the actual playoffs. And most people apparently have forgotten what that's all about. It's preposterous. It doesn't matter where you do.
You're talking about a league that couldn't control a mumps outbreak.
Right.
Exactly. They can't figure out what head injuries do, and they're going to control 1,000 people and keep them from in a bubble.
I love the NBA's plan. The NBA just went balls to the wall. They put everybody in Florida.
Worst place. Just cut it off and let it float into the ocean.
Florida, Vegas. Florida, Vegas. Florida.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's amazing.
LA, I guess, would have been the other choice. I don't know.
Yeah, they just keep acting like they're treating this like they treated head injuries. They're just going full bore forward and just like they're doing the Trump thing. Like, it's not there.
Yeah.
It's not there. It's not happening.
Exactly.
It's the Trump thing. He just lies and lies and lies until, he believes it. It's kind of the same thing. I don't want to get political, but I'm just using it as an example.
Don't get forced.
Gary Bettman is treating this thing, and it's ridiculous because you've got these controlled small groups of people working out, and now you're having outbreaks. What do you think is going to happen when the groups get bigger?
This may come as a
get better.
This may come as a surprise to you guys, but Gary Bettman is a clown.
Really?
I
never heard that.
Well, he's a lawyer he's playing lawyer is what he's doing.
He's like he's an idiot. He's just like a third grade Borscht Belt comic.
Speaking of which, and that's what this all reminds me of. Did you guys watch The Simpsons, like the golden age of The Simpsons?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the episode where Sideshow Bob gets the bomb and forces them to shut off all the television signals? And so Krusty runs out to the shack in the Alkali Flats to be the only one broadcasting, so you can have all the ratings.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Whatever sports league can get on TV is going to get all the ratings. That's literally what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, they're all being Lord Farquaad in the first Shrek movie. Some of you will die, but it's a chance I'm willing to take.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you need is Austin Matthews to, or Max Domi, who's compromised and might not even play. Someone like that to get sick and really,
Harpo Kako said he's going to camp and he's got type 1 diabetes.
I don't know, man.
Ugh.
I don't think I would chance it for this stupid, silly tournament they're putting together. At this point, it's like going to Showbiz Pizza.
Yeah, I mean, we could spare a Drake Caggiula, but not a Patrick Kane.
Yeah, right. The Blackhawks can't afford to spare much at this point in time.
You would think if they were going to do this, knowing it's a joke, why not live out your wildest fantasy and play all the games outside?
Yeah.
If you want to even try to make this a little safer, there's your
that would be more reasonable.
Games.
It would be.
Yeah, for sure. If they said that, I would be like, okay, well, that makes sense to me. But
take
this
everybody
does
to
not.
Banff and
Banff. And like Vegas, of all places.
Everybody in Banff except for Michel Goulet.
Oh, God.
he's still there.
Michel Goulet's still there with Mike Keenan's credit card.
That's going to be the next documentary that comes out on ESPN.
I would watch a 30 for 30 about the early 90s Blackhawks. That would be a great documentary.
Yeah, definitely. There'd be a lot of snow flowing around there.
Yeah. Also, one year I went to the Blackhawks convention. They had a panel with all those guys. So Tom Lysiak, Manson was there, Gilbert was there, and Goulet was there. And yeah, to a man, they just despise Mike Keenan. So it'd be great to have a documentary where they all just rag Mike Keenan.
I hate to derail this, but I was just talking the other day about this because something came up about, it was about the trade where the Blackhawks almost got Lindros.
Yeah.
And I was going back and forth with Uncle Al about it. I think it was Uncle Al. And just saying, can you imagine if the Blackhawks had Jeremy Roenick, Eric Lindros, Chris Chelios, and Dominic Hasek all together on the team, because they would have had to get rid of Belfour in the trade and Larmer in the trade.
They would have found a way to fuck it up. They would have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
True.
It would have been fun to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
did you end up finding the proposed trade, the write up on it?
Yeah, it was like Steve Smith, Larmer, Belfour, and a bunch of draft picks. Yeah.
And then the key to the deal was they were going to give Lindros $10 million. And it's like, okay, I can see Quebec taking this trade, but the second you go to Bill Wirtz and say, hey, we're going to give this guy that just got drafted $10 million, he's going to throw you out of a window.
Right.
I was looking in the articles in that same area that were like, oh yeah, Jeremy Roenick's he's gonna ask for $1 million a year or something, or it was something like that. And they were and Lindros wanted 10.
Yeah.
And 10 is a lot now.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the whole Lindros thing would also make a great documentary, just because how many different times did the Nordiques trade him? In fact, when they traded him to the Flyers and the Rangers simultaneously.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not the first time that's happened in the NHL. There's a couple of those where I think it was Iginla got traded to one team and he thought he was going to the other.
Yeah.
When are we getting our John Spano documentary? That's what I want.
There is one.
The guy who almost is there? Well, I need to get another one.
I think I can't remember. I think HBO did it because one of the guys from Entourage narrated it.
Oh, could I have something better than that?
You'll get the guy from Entourage and like it.
One of those things is true.
Bazinga!
But yeah, there's an HBO Sports documentary about John Spano, and it's remarkable. It's really well done.
Fork, I think you're the only person who ever saw that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm gonna find it now. Yeah.
Viewership
this could be this could be a good commercial for it. Maybe people will now go out and look for it.
Like 3 or 4 people.
It might be on HBO Max. I know they've got a lot of the sports documentaries. A lot of the HBO Sports documentaries are on HBO Max, including "Do You Believe in Miracles," which is always a great watch. That's of course the 1980 Olympic hockey team with lots of interviews and guys tearing up. And
That was a 30 for 30.
no, that's
Fan,
HBO
okay.
Sports.
I don't know. It says 30 for 30.
Do you believe in miracles? No, the one I'm talking about. It's got the full HBO workup. It's got the Lev Schreiber narration and.
I'm looking at it right here. It's Big Shot, directed by Kevin Connolly from Entourage. It's on the 30 for 30 website.
Okay, so then I'm wrong. It's 30 for 30. But I knew there was one. And yeah, I knew it was one of the clowns from Entourage.
All right, then.
So
Well, I know what I'm doing. I'll see you guys later.
Well, then there'll be a 30 for 30 on Jeremy Collett, and it'll be narrated by Jim Parsons.
Bazinga! I don't care.
I teed that one up for you.
There you go. I was paying attention.
Aced it.
So, well,
I mean,
getting back on track just a little bit here. Like I said, we're in phase 2, or quote unquote phase 2. Apparently, it was announced that the draft lottery, quietly, someone announced that the draft lottery is Friday at 8 p.m. Apparently, it was announced a couple weeks ago, but I think everyone just kind of overlooked it. I mean, that's fine if the draft lottery. It's still kind of weird because we don't know how teams are truly finishing, but they're going to do it this way.
And the Hall of Fame induction gets announced Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's a good point because a little thing I put in the notes was that Marian Hossa could possibly be selected, and he should. For sure, he should be a first ballot.
Oh yeah,
there's 2 slam dunks. Hossa and Iginla are both slam dunks.
Yeah. And they probably will both get in.
Yeah,
Which would be great.
Who the other 2 guys will be up in the air.
Yeah, I don't think there's a doubt. I mean, Hossa has definitely earned it. So.
Yeah.
And then you get outside Chicago, and you'd be surprised how many people don't think so. It's just ridiculous. But
he was one of those quiet players, and especially behind Kane and Taves, sometimes you would get lost out there. Like you would kind of forget he was there, and you're like, oh my God, Marian Hossa's not in this team, because there were so many other personalities out there that not that he was forgettable. It's just, he's a quiet, unassuming guy. He just does everything right. You don't notice him, and if he does something flashy, you might notice it. But for a lot of times, you don't. You kind of forget how good he really was.
Well, he was also playing both ends of the ice, which isn't always exciting to the meatballs. But the reality of it is it's what made him such a great player. Wasn't just that he had 1,000 points and 500 goals, but he was tremendous defensive player as well. And but you're right. I mean, that style of player is not always the guy who gets all the highlights in the press and whatnot. And but he was a pretty effective hockey player.
And they really miss him.
Yeah, they do.
And
yeah.
And in this era, nobody's going to give Selke votes to a wing. If you're not a center, you're not.
So he's going to be center. Right. You're right.
Like Mark Stone will never get it, even though he might deserve it. So, well, anyway, back to the camp thing. They claim there's a rumor out there that July 10th they want to start the official camps, and I don't.
You suffered a recent blow to the head?
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
I'm like, I have a gallery view. This is like the most on acid Brady Bunch ever.
It is.
Fork and I are just trying not to blind everyone using our forehead.
Oh,
hey! Look, 3 out of the 4 of us.
It's John Jaeckel and the pawn shop.
You are outnumbered here, Jaeckel. You're gonna have to take some of that.
I have enough flowing and lustrous hair for the 3 of you.
Oh God, we have to play this though.
Man can grow balls and become my uncle too.
Because that never leaves the soundboard. One of my favorites.
It's funny because like in on the East Coast, like in Brooklyn, places like that, that's a fairly common expression, but if I'm branded with it, I'll take it.
I'll tell you, Fork, I have heard that one before.
Yeah.
Wait, you know what? That's the first time I heard you're from New York, Fork.
Yeah, imagine that. See, what I should have
No.
done, I have a couple of plastic bins of baseball caps down on my first floor in my first floor closet. In there, I have a 1994 Stanley Cup hat. I should have worn that tonight.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I've got a couple. I got like a couple old things, some gifts I was given of like old Ducks merchandise and stuff.
wow.
I haven't been, like original Duck stuff when Brian Burke was
Well,
working there.
here's a signed Adam Gray's hockey puck for you.
Nice.
That's our Rangers thing for the night.
I got my Mike Vernon one here somewhere, but I don't know where I put it.
Yeah, and
Not from Detroit. I'm not.
I'm surrounded by autographed John Scott merchandise, so.
Well, CT, I don't know if you could see or not. Remember all those framed HockeeNight articles that got signed?
Yeah, I can see them over your shoulder.
Yeah, they're all over. The 5 of them are over my shoulder. So I've got that, and above that is a picture of Hull and Makita.
Where's the picture?
Right above. I was gonna say right above a signed copy of "Reasons Why I Love You."
Oh, yeah. I don't know if that guy ever found out that he became part of like Chicago hockey culture.
We're going down the rabbit hole here. I'm going to lose some people, but anyway, back on track, skidding back on track.
Now, one thing I find interesting in the videos that the Blackhawks have been dropping on social media, it's always Malcolm Subban in net. Have you guys seen any clips with Corey Crawford? Is he even there?
No, I don't think he's in town.
Oh, okay.
I believe he's not in town because there was only a handful of people that were actually in town for this part of it.
Yeah, well, Kane lives here. You know, ever since 2015, the Blackhawks have made damn sure he lives in Chicago year-round.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
With his handler.
Yeah.
Al McIsaac.
Yeah, what's he going to do now? He doesn't have anybody to explain hockey to anymore.
What do you guys think of this McDonough thing? I don't think we ever got your opinion on the McDonough firing and all that stuff.
I don't understand it because I didn't think there was anything wrong with the business ops side of the house. McDonough's not. I mean, I
don't think it was. I think it was that he was maybe trying to meddle too much in the hockey side, and
yeah, there's been times where there's been things that have happened with the Blackhawks where McDonough's fingerprints have been all over it, especially when you see a spectacularly terrible contract to a fan favorite.
Right, Fred Seabrook.
Yeah, for sure.
Seabrook, but also when they signed Kane and Taves, they signed them each for $1 million more than Ovechkin was making.
Agreed. And all 3 of those contracts were given out a full year before the expiration of their current deals. Another one they did a year before the deal expired for a guy who never played in Chicago at that point was Artem Anisimov. And, you know, that thing had a no movement clause attached to it. I mean, I get it. You're trying to avoid any kind of a controversy and distraction during the season. But at the same time, you know, boy, those things came back to haunt the team. And I do think that you're right. I think that was part of what did McDonough in. But the thing is if you're going to, I don't know, it seems to me that if you're going to put blame for the hockey situation on McDonough, and listen, I did, and I still do. I just don't see how Stan Bowman survives this either. Shifting to our favorite topic.
I guess that was what I was surprised at. You know, that they didn't clean house completely. More of that. I mean, John McDonough is what he is. You know, whatever. I guess the only comment I had that I kind of took issue with when he got fired was everyone said, "Oh, you know, John McDonough like just walked into this great situation and didn't do anything." And I don't think that's true. I know there's a lot of the fights I would have with people where they're like, well, all you had to do was put the Hawks on television. Like when he walked in the door, people like stations wanted to broadcast the Hawks because that wasn't the case. Right. So, you know, he should get some credit. I think he should get credit for raising the profile of the franchise. I think, whatever any input he had into hockey decisions was too much, frankly. And, you know, I think he's run his course here. Yeah. I just, like you said, John, I'm surprised what Stan Bowman's still doing here.
And I think that it remains to be seen, you know, I think there may maybe yet another shoe to drop with regard to Bowman. I think
Yeah.
they may want to get through the draft and figure out what's going to happen with the conclusion of this season and the beginning of the next, and then make a move there. I will actually be shocked if they don't.
Yeah, I think that the Blackhawks probably figured that there's going to be some semblance of hockey being played, so they wanted to keep their powder dry as far as Bowman and Bazinga went until that resolves itself.
Right.
And I mean, look, if there is a playoff, if the Blackhawks actually play NHL games, the best thing is it's going to be a guillotine. They're going to get out on the ice against the Oilers in their 29% power play, and it's going to be over in 3.
Didn't you hear the great Ian Mitchell that isn't even going to be allowed to play? He's gonna fix everything.
Don't get me started. You had to do that. You had to throw that out there. I did they come out and say about 10 days ago that he wasn't gonna play in the playoffs? I thought.
Well, as of right now, they said
yeah.
that those people, the guys who have signed contracts like that, were not going to be eligible. Because I think his contract doesn't technically start till next season.
Right, but I do think they're like I saw Kurashev's in camp, so
Well, he played with Rockford this year, though.
Yeah, but still, he's not going to be skating with the Hawks. He's going to basically just be out there as a black ace. And
well, they also said that they were going to allow a certain amount. They were going to allow like rosters of like 30 people. Not on the ice clearly, but you could carry 30 players in case someone gets hurt. You've got guys that have been quarantined already. You could just throw them in the lineup.
You need 5 more guys in the dressing room spreading COVID around.
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense.
I mean, that's what Delia is going to be part of it too. They told him he's going to be there for this, and if they need a goalie, they'll have a goalie that's already been quarantined that they can then throw in the lineup. If Malcolm Subban doesn't work out, once Corey Crawford gets a head injury and is out for whatever.
Yeah, they're just gonna stick everybody in the freezer with Ted Williams' head.
I think that
Bazinga.
Why not? Something's got to work, right?
Yeah.
Dry ice, sit on dry ice, something like that. Yeah. I don't know.
Stick Bobby Hull out there. There's no virus in the world that can survive in that body.
He's been pickled. There's nothing that can hurt him.
Yeah, totally.
He's going to be immortal. He's one of those zombies.
He's
Walking Dead.
He's hockey's Keith Richards.
He has the optimal blood formaldehyde level.
Yeah.
To live for 1,000 years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't. I can't see. I mean, they might attempt to do it, but I got to see that this getting derailed real quick. The way things are going. Yeah. Especially if it's like Vegas or a big city. Like that's another thing too. Like I understood if they were going to try and do something like in they were saying like in North Dakota or something, like out where there's a bunch of sheets of ice where people could be isolated. That seems to make a little bit of sense. That's kind of a bubble in and of itself.
Right.
But if you're going to do it in Chicago, where we had a high rate here, we don't now, but we did, and it could easily break out again. Vegas, we got people traveling from all over now because they think vacations are great and the whole world's wide open again.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense to me. I don't. Anyway, the hub cities, they kind of announced today that if there are hub cities, and we were prefacing that with if this really actually happens, are possibly Vancouver, Vegas, Chicago, Edmonton, LA, Toronto. They said that Columbus was in the mix, but they have been pulled off the
they
table.
Don't like John.
Yeah, that's all right. I was too negative.
They don't want John too close to anybody.
I was harassing Gary Bettman on social media.
John was the tipping point.
I always am.
Yeah.
There's got to be a Canadian city. There's got to be a Canadian city as a hub because otherwise all of Canada will have a shit fit.
Exactly.
It's going to be hard though if they have to when it actually comes to the point where it has to cross over and the cup is going to be happening. You're going to have to go through if the borders aren't really fully opened, that's going to cause some issues unless they're going to play all the games at one location. Even then you're going to have one team that's going to have to travel at least once to get there.
Yep. It's insane. It's just
I
insane.
haven't followed as closely on some of the details. Have they worked out something to get the Euro players over here in terms of visas and all that stuff? I mean,
Not really.
I mean, I feel like every year for regular training camp, there's a handful of guys who can't report because they got visa issues. So
Right.
I don't know.
And now with all the borders being closed, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
They said, I don't know, I heard mixed reports. I heard a report somewhere that said that they were telling guys, hey, if you want to start making your way back when you can, we're going to be opening camp at a certain time. You might need this time to get back here. And then I heard others say that, well, there's no reason for a guy to be coming here and doing nothing. He can work out back at home. So just let him stay at home until the time comes.
And actually, I think today, didn't the White House announce that Trump is going to sign an order suspending work visas for the rest of the year?
It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
So there you go. That wipes all the Euro players out.
The logistics of this just don't make any sense at all. How they could pull this off.
He'll do some kind of an exception. He'd do some kind of an exception for the NHL. You know he would. For his good friend Gary Bettman.
Maybe.
He'd be like, who? The NHL? What do they play? Lacrosse?
And then he would do a victory lap over it. I mean, of course he would. I'm not kidding. He would.
I don't. Maybe for basketball or something that gives him a little bit of clout where he could say, "Hey, look what I did." I don't think hockey's going to get him that reward, unfortunately, because according to ESPN, it's not, or the guy on ESPN, it's not one of the top 4 sports. But I digress. Yeah, that guy's a dick. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Vegas seems like. No, go ahead.
I was going to go back to McDonough for just a second because I don't think we ever fully sewed that up. We never really talked about who would come in and take that place. And I mean, Jay Blunk is still there. Our good friend Jay Blunk.
Jay Blunk, yeah. Well, I think you have a nominee that you want to throw into the hat for, don't you?
Oh, Chris Block.
The handsome Chris Block.
Oh.
Yeah, Chris Block absolutely should get that gig.
Chris Block would do a better job than a lot of people, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Although, you know what? I would rather have Chris Block at GM and then move Stan Bowman up there, up the ladder to something where he can't get his hands wet in hockey stuff.
Move the GM's office to Ironworks.
Nice big picture window at Ironworks for Chris Block. Him and his dog, just hanging out in the office, watching his boys play.
But yeah, I mean,
Mutu, right? Yeah, that's his dog.
Because McDonough did a lot when he got here. Because one of the first things they did was they started putting ads on television.
Yeah.
And the ads were great. They were funny. They were innovative. They got people to get to kind of know some of the players. And then they did Blackhawks television, which again, introduce everybody to the Blackhawks, get to know the guys. One of the first segments they did was the players and their dogs, which sounds really simple, but that's how fans become attached to players. Is you show that the human side of these players. They're not just guys on the ice. They're guys with dogs, guys with kids, things like that. And that was all John McDonough. But
here's the thing, though, McDonough. So the team had decided to undergo a complete rebuild. I think they started that really a year or two before he started, and he really benefited from that rebuild as the team started to come back, which he had nothing to do with. He had nothing to do with acquiring those players.
No, nothing at all.
So my point is, I'm not gonna trash him because I think he did absolutely nothing wrong as far as promoting that team and that rebuild and that rebound. He never got in the way in terms of the promotion. He pressed the right buttons. Now, but here's what I'm gonna argue. Hiring Pat Foley back, putting home games on TV, running TV ads, that was all low-hanging fruit from a marketing standpoint. Oh, yeah. It wasn't genius. But he did a solid job. I think the 1-goal campaign when it was launched was great. The timing was perfect. It captivated people. It got stale as hell 6 years later when they were no longer a team that was going to contend for a cup anymore. But all that was good. I mean, I can't fault him at all. But you know what? The thing I will fault him for is that I do think that he was one of the guys, if not the guy, who stood in the way of pressing the button on another rebuild, even though he greatly benefited from the rebuild that started with Peter Wirtz and Dale Talon before he came on. And, so there I'm going to blame McDonough. And when they announced they fired him, my hope was, okay, now maybe they're going to start clearing out some of these big money contracts on some of these veteran players and really rebuild this thing. That's not to say that I don't love those guys for what they did for this team, Seabrook and Keith and, even Jonathan Taves. And I'm not going to name any other names because it'll just get people riled up. But the truth of the matter is that these guys keep getting older every year. And the youth movement that they keep counting on year after year is never enough to even get them in the playoffs, much less close to a cup. So at some point, we're gonna really turn this over. We're gonna really go young, and we're gonna get some high draft picks that you're not gonna get when you're finishing 12th or 13th in the conference. But I suspect and I hope that's what the Wirtz family is trying to do, is to really start that process. It's going to cost them a lot of money, but in the end, it's going to pay off because they're going to be back in contention in 3, 4, 5 years.
Well, go ahead, CT.
Go ahead. Okay, well, I was just going to say, and that's why I think they need to fire Stan Bowman, because what has Stan Bowman done with the draft? Stan Bowman did a hell of a job retooling some teams that needed to be retooled on the fly to contend again, but he's not built the team from the ground up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, I mean, he's
Michael Hanzus.
Well, my point, and I made this on a podcast a couple weeks ago, is I think he's had some good drafts, but there's really not a solid player development program in place.
No, they don't develop players at all.
So they'll get guys who can become good NHL players, but I mean, one of the examples I use is Mark McNeil.
I knew we were going to talk about Mark McNeil.
Yeah, but
bingo.
He's the perfect example. He's the perfect example. This guy
HockeeNight bingo.
He had the tools and just never really got the guidance. And the one smart thing he's done in the last couple of years is he has gotten Brian Campbell involved in developing young defensemen.
Yeah.
So,
but before that, they hadn't, not the entire time, this cup era, they had not developed a defenseman through their system since Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
Yeah.
Like that tells you right there, that's a decade of not developing any defensemen through your system. That's pretty bad. Yeah, and we're not going to talk about goalies because there hasn't been a single goalie that's been drafted that's done anything for the Blackhawks since Corey Crawford. Yeah. So, you get you got some forwards in there, some Shaws, some Sods, okay, but you didn't develop those players. Those players were almost ready to go and be plugged into the lineup the day that they were drafted.
Yeah, Kirby Doc, same thing.
Yeah. And if it's a guy who needs to sit in Rockford for 2 years, they never develop into anything and they end up getting traded somewhere. Yeah. And I mean, that kind of happened with Teuvo, but he was actually breaking out a little bit. And then you got the Bickle thing coming up and they got to, sacrifice Teuvo for Bickle and to get out for a year from under a year of Brian Bickle's contract.
Well, yeah. And I think getting Teuvo out of the Chicago nightlife helped too.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably a big market for him.
Well, when one of the things I miss about Joel Quenneville is there was like Quenneville speak. And I still always think about the time that he scratched Teravainen and Vermette in the 2015 playoffs.
Fresh legs.
Fresh legs. Fresh legs was classic Quenneville for you broke curfew.
Right.
When a guy broke curfew, Quenneville would say, I want to get fresh legs in.
Yeah.
If you were going to break curfew, you better be Patrick Kane.
Right. Right.
But
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I would be happy with them doing like a Mike McCaskey to Bowman, get him up and out of the way. And
the other thing that we don't know yet, but it's almost certainly going to happen, is there's going to be one, maybe two compliance buyouts. Because
we sure hope.
Well, the cap is going to have to drop so drastically
it is.
From loss of
revenue.
But
they may do a salary rollback too, like they did before.
Yeah,
PA
this
is
is
going to have to agree to that, but yeah.
Yeah, I know.
PA is gonna
One
have
way
to
or the
agree
other,
with-
you're doing it.
the PA would probably be happier with compliance buyouts.
I would, because then you get out from underneath that Seabrook thing
Yeah, Seabrook.
for sure.
It's a more dignified way to cut the strings on Seabrook.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think last time I was on with you guys, we talked about Duncan Keith, and I said then, on one hand, you kind of look at Duncan Keith and like, yeah, he's old and everything, but for a $5 million cap hit, Duncan Keith is fine.
He's still a good value. I agree.
Yeah, I don't see a hurry in moving Duncan Keith. Now, you want to talk about DeHaan, how many shoulder surgeries do you want to write out? That's another guy that they might want to look at.
But there's millions. But in terms of a trade chip, the bottom line is if you've got a really overvalued or overpaid player, of that age, you're not going to get a lot in return in a trade for him. But for Keith at his cap hit, somebody might at the trade deadline this year or next year rather, make a pretty nice offer for him. And if you're a team in the Hawks position, you got to look at that.
Oh yeah.
And you have to. I mean, I think that if you're a team in the Hawks position, depending on what's offered, you got to look at anything. But as far as a buyout, yeah, I think Seabrook is candidate 1A. I can't really think of another contract that even comes close in terms of.
No, there's not.
People always talk about Oli Mata, but it's like Oli Mata at his price. I don't know. He's not the worst defenseman they have.
No.
I heard this the other day.
I have
But
4
this is
words
the
for
story
you.
we're going to tell. Yep.
Brent Seabrook comeback tour. Let's go.
There was Ryan Lambert on the Puck Soup podcast talking about sarcastically talking about the Brent Seabrook comeback tour. Yeah, because of that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, this kind of also transitions into another thing that I got a little angry and heated about on Father's Day yesterday, which is an article that I found about UFA, RFA targets that the Blackhawks, defenseman targets that the Blackhawks should be looking to, because they're going to have $17 million worth of cap space, according to some website where it doesn't say that. And this person also said the draft is coming within days, and also said that free agency is on July 1st, which is not, which is all incorrect information. But they said that they should get, one of them was Tyson Berry, Torrey Krug, and one other player, which is they can't afford any of them, because the open cap space they're going to have this year is going to be spent on a starting goalie, Dylan Strome, a little bit for probably Kajula, and you're going to have to extend Kubalik.
Yeah.
I mean, all that right there, that's going to eat $10 million. Yeah, that's going to eat $10 million. You, for a decent starting goalie, be it Corey Crawford or whatever, you're probably going to pay $5 million at least, and maybe more. And then, for Dylan Strome, say he makes $3.5 million. There you're at $8.5 million with 2 players. That, they're not going to have that room. And then someone stepped in and given us the old, they're going to buy out Mata, and they're going to, DeHaan is going to be gone, and Seabrook's going to be gone. I'm like, how is this going to even happen? You can't trade Seabrook, and they're not going to trade DeHaan. I mean, I don't think it makes the team any better either if they get rid of Mata.
Right. And I mean, if DeHaan can play, you keep him, because he's a good player if he can play.
Yeah.
I know who the article came from. And, it's kind of dubious to begin with. So
yeah, it's just like they have so many defensemen. How are you going to fit a Torrey Krug? I mean, you find a way, but something's not going to fit right. You're going to have something left over that you're not going to be able to get rid of. That's going to eat up cap space, or it's going to screw something up. With that, you'd have to get rid of 2 people to be able to bring a Torrey Krug on to play anywhere in this, or Tyson Berry to play anywhere on this team.
Yeah, the solution for the Blackhawks blue line is go young, go young, go young. You
might as well. Yeah, I mean, they got
Boquist.
You got a ton of young guys in the system.
Yeah, and you don't know what Vlasic's going to look like come whenever camp happens for the upcoming. Whatever playoff clusterfuck winds up happening, or not happening, at some point they are going to play a season with a training camp, and at that point, so at that point you can look at a guy like Vlasic. Mitchell will be a little older. You could look at a guy like him. Bodan, you could look at him. I mean, there's talent there, for sure. There's talent there.
Yeah.
And these are young guys. They're cheap guys. You know, if you're gonna suck anyway, suck young, because if
wow,
bazinga, I don't care.
If you're gonna suck young,
that's for my son Nestor.
Taste it.
Wow. Oh boy, I think we're gonna get in trouble. No.
Yep.
Yeah, you knew the job was dangerous when you took it.
Yeah. So, yeah, as far as they go, they've got enough defensemen in the system.
Don't spend money there.
Yeah, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with goalies because they're probably going to bring Crawford back for a year or two. I think.
Yeah, and he's not going to make $6 million.
No, I would guess maybe more around 5.
Yeah.
For 2 more years, that's fine. But you have to have some kind of future in that. What you're going to do? Are you going to just hopes and dreams that you're going to find some guy driving a Zamboni in Finland, or are you going to actually draft and develop someone through the system? And we've talked about this for a couple times now. Our Eric Andrews on our staff brought up, what about Askarov, one of the highest rated goalies coming, since Carey Price. And right now, Carey Price doesn't seem like a good example, but there are times when he was the most dominant goalie in the NHL. Oh, yeah. Now, if you could have that and develop it, not have to buy it at $9 million 5 years down the road, that might be something to investigate.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to have to – they got to get creative with the goaltending situation because nothing they've been doing is working.
And I thought when they made that trade, when they apparently, quote unquote, made that trade with the Islanders to bring that Russian in Sorokin, I'm like, okay, you're going to do something. You've got a plan. You're going to make something happen. Like, because they were going to, at that point, they were going to let Robin Leonard go, which had me, out of my mind. Because I'm like, well, how do you have this guy? You're like, hang on to him. He could be here to goalie for the next 5 years. Even if you don't win the cup with him, at least you have a good, solid, one of the better goalies in the league at a decent price. And the numbers that I've heard that he's going to sign for with Vegas is probably the same money they're going to sign Corey Crawford for.
So going back, go ahead. So going back to
I'm done.
Going back to the defense for a minute, I agree 100% on the goaltending, but I think the defense and the goaltending and the future of both are really important. And you build championships from the net out. I think that there's a presumption that's being made that the Hawks are kind of set as far as young defensemen and young defense prospects. I'm not necessarily sold on that yet. I think, Ian Mitchell, for all the hype he's getting, I don't know that he's any more pedigreed or, off the charts in terms of his ability than, say, Adam Clendening was 8 or 9 years ago.
I mean, the little bit I've seen of him play, he's Jared Spurgeon, basically. Yeah,
well, that could be, and that would be better than Adam Clendening. And I'm not going to say that Ian Mitchell won't pan out, but there's reason to believe that Nicola Baudin is never really going to be much of an NHL player. Chad Chris, may never pan out. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I think that Stan Bowman has drafted year after year, 5'11" 170-pound defensemen who can move the puck at the lower levels of hockey. But he hasn't had a tremendous track record. I mean, Boqvist was a slam dunk. That was an easy pick. And so far he looks pretty good, at least bringing the puck up the ice and doing things in the offensive zone. His defensive game remains to be seen, although there are signs that he may be developable.
There were a few games I went to where you could see that he's got a high hockey IQ.
Yeah,
he's a smart
guy. Totally agree.
And
so go ahead.
So he's a guy, you could see where he's positioning himself well, and he will benefit from skating with Duncan Keith. He was on the pair with Duncan Keith, and you could see his game growing. And because Duncan Keith had somebody on his other side that he didn't have to keep an eye on as much as he did with Seabrook, it freed Duncan Keith up. So Duncan Keith was playing some of his best hockey right before the pandemic.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I
think Boqvist is a box checked, but you got to have 6 box checked, 6 boxes checked. So I think, and yes, you mentioned Vlasic. Vlasic is a guy who they picked, and they feel like he's got the size and the defensive game to develop into something they'll need. But I still think that they might need. I keep saying this. I'd love to see them bring in that next generation Nicholas Hjalmarsson type player, because I think that's
they also seem to be happy with like Lucas Carlson. Possibly. I mean, if you put him in the right role, you don't know what he's going to be. He didn't kill himself out there.
Lucas Carlson's a guy who you can see his game is still developing.
Yeah.
They
all are at this point, but they do have a young, good crop. I mean, Beaudin, we haven't mentioned. I'm not a big Beaudin guy, but he may turn out to be something. He had talent. There's a reason he was picked in the first round.
By the Blackhawks, though.
I think by Stan Bowman. And I think the knock on Beaudin is that his skating, it may not be NHL quality.
Yeah.
He's a guy that looked really good in junior and could get away with things in junior, but he's not even getting away with those things in the AHL anymore. And skating is oftentimes the thing that keeps guys from being really good NHL players. I mentioned Beaudin and Vlasic, he may end up developing, but Lucas Carlson, at a similar stage of development, everybody knew Nicholas Hjalmarsson was going to be a special player. At least the people I talked to back then knew it. And I'm not sure that Carlson's ever going to be a special player. I think he's going to be like a 6'7" guy, maybe, So I think the point is like, if this team's going to get back into cup contention, their talent acquisition needs to be much better than just, a bunch of meatballs, getting all goo-goo-eyed over, this year's second round draft pick. I mean, it has to get a lot better, and they've got to get a lot more good young players. Doc and Boqvist are a start.
They need forwards. They're going to need forwards because I'm still,
and they need a goalie.
I know I'm the hater. I'm the official hater of Alex DeBrincat, but I'm still not sold that he's not that top echelon guy to me. He's a second line scoring guy if you put him in the right position. And Dylan Strome, we've seen what he is. We got people already ready to launch him out the door after he had that year that he had last year. Yeah. So it's like, where are the young forwards in the system? The young dynamic forwards that can be game changers. Right. There are none. There's none. No. There's maybe Kirby Doc, and that's it.
Yeah, they need to.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Frank. No, Frank, you go ahead. I'm sorry. I've been talking.
Yeah, they want to hear you. You're the guest.
I was going to say, DeBrincat and Strome are the perfect guys to put on the third line where they could just bum slay.
Yeah. Yeah.
CT looks like a Iron Butterfly concert poster from 1967.
Yeah, I don't know if people are going to be able to see this. But
damn it.
He's got BC superimposed over himself.
Yeah.
Oh, that was classic. I looked up, I saw that. Your face in BC's picture. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Like that final frame of Psycho, where the mother's face is superimposed over Anthony Perkins.
Yep.
Thanks, Nestor.
Yep.
But I lost my. Oh yeah, third line. So yeah, DeBrincat and Strome are perfect guys to skate third line where they could just bum slay, and between the two of them they can crank out 60 goals. And 60 goals from your third line, you take that every day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's and I'd be fine with that. I'm noted as the DeBrincat hater. Yeah, I'm the hater because and then he came out and he scored 40 goals, and then now this year he dropped 20 points off of his total because he hasn't been he just hasn't been hitting the net. He hasn't been hitting the net.
I was gonna say, his shooting percentage is it's one of these things where whenever there's another season, you got to look at his shooting percentage and then look at Kubelik's shooting percentage, and they're both going to normal out.
Yeah. So, I like Kubalik because I like his big body and he's got a nice shot. But he's not the most fleet of foot, but he does all right for a big guy. I'm a big fan of Kubalik. I like Kubalik.
Yeah, Kubalik
I think he's got
like
a playoff build.
Kubalik is like Pavel Bure compared to Dylan Strome. I mean, you keep saying he's slow. I actually don't think he's slow. I think he's actually got decent speed. But I mean,
Yeah, decent.
Yeah, decent.
Sometimes decent is slow in the NHL when you got, Connor McDavid and, players like Dylan Larkin, whizzing by him, giving him windburn.
Yeah, well, if they're giving him windburn, then I can't even describe what they're doing to Strome.
Yeah. So
I mean, Strome is like Vinny Prospal slow.
Oh,
that's a deep cut.
Like Andrew Burnett slow.
those are harsh.
Andrew Brunette. Oh, there we go.
Blackhawks legend Andrew Burnett.
Yeah.
I'm faster than Andrew Burnett.
You guys should have heard our draft we did. There were a lot of those brought up. It was Blackhawks since the we all drafted teams since the lockout, the 05 lockout. Any player that played on the Blackhawks, but you have to. It's how they were on the Blackhawks, not how they were elsewhere. Not Norris Trophy winning Dustin Bufflin. Third line forward Dustin Bufflin, but yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I think so for you, Frank.
Well, years ago, our good friend Bad Kermit had a website called Hire Jemessian, and he would do a fantasy baseball draft every year called Nafy Ball, named after Nafy Perez. And what Nafy Ball was you got points deducted when your player did something good. So the whole point of the league was to have the worst possible players, but they had to play. Because if they sat, you lost points for that. So they had to get in the game. Basically, the best thing you could have is a guy getting in the game and going 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. That would get you a lot of points. And I always had in the back of my mind that one year I would do Nafy Puck, where we would do fantasy hockey, and the object to have the absolute worst players. and again, it would benefit you to have bad players who still dressed every night. So
I'm sure we come up with a long list of those players. Yeah.
Could also come up with a long list of things we had ideas about but never did.
Oh yeah. We were great on concept, terrible on execution. Right. The only time we ever did anything was when it was a really stupid gag. We were great on gags.
Yeah, definitely.
Never good on the long. Never good on the long.
And even our best one, we had nothing to do with.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Back to our good friend Jay Blanc.
Yeah, Jay.
Who I assume is watching now.
Yeah. Oh,
Hi,
yeah.
Jay.
Of course he is.
Happy birthday.
Nothing else going. He's got nothing else going on.
Well, judging by our.
What do you mean? He's got a measurement done in his office for new drapes.
Yeah. Judging by our large viewership, it's a distinct possibility Jay Blanc is watching.
All 5 of them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. John, you got anything else we want to discuss? I'm drawing a blank here. I think I've hit all my points.
Yeah. What about our guests? You guys got anything you want to
I know you guys got stuff you want to get off your chest.
I just wanted to announce we've all been fired by the Buffalo Sabres. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
By email, right? Or by text message?
No, Kevin McAdams is on my lawn with a sign holding it.
Blackhawks legend Kevin Adams.
That's right.
He's out there with a boombox like John Cusack.
You're fired.
You're fired, CT. He even got Peter Gabriel to sing it.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess it'll be interesting.
Podcast now.
I guess it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens now.
Yeah, I have this feeling that every major sport is basically in a race with each other to see who could have the first fatality.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. It's what is that? Blade Runner? Is that the movie?
Yeah. Hey, we might as well just go for it and have Running Man.
Yeah. There you go. Or Thunderdome.
Yeah.
He had to
play
it.
Play the games in the Thunderdome.
Yeah, the Hawks should bring Sub-Zero in to play goal.
Nice.
See, this
Zingo. I don't care.
I think this is going to be our Hockey Night podcast pivot now, is we're just going to run through all the Arnold movies.
Awesome. I'm very excited to watch Junior.
Boy, you guys have really been keeping busy, haven't you?
Oh,
We're
man.
keeping something.
Hey, I will say this. They should give a medal to anybody who had to watch Mad Magazine Presents Up the Academy.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah,
And I was a
it's
Police
not-
Academy guy up until like 4.
Well, no, Up the Academy
no,
was...
Up the Academy. Go ahead, for.
Okay, Mad Magazine, after National Lampoon had Animal House, Mad Magazine decided, or someone approached them and said, you guys should do a movie too. So they got the script and it was kids in a military school. And it was called Up the Academy. And it is brutally terrible. It is...
And it stars Chicago legend Harry Tynowitz.
That's right.
Oh.
Harry Keinowitz is in it.
Oh, wow.
Probably
Oh,
in his
Harry
most major
Tynowitz.
acting role ever.
I remember Harry Tynowitz.
Chicago radio legend, Harry
Yeah, Harry
Tyler.
Right, Harry
Tynowitz.
Keinowitz.
The very same.
The movie is so bad that Ron Liebman is basically the star of the movie, and he had his name removed from the credits.
Perfect.
And then the best part is Mad Magazine. The movie came out. Mad Magazine hated the movie. They paid like $30,000 to have their name removed from the movie, have all references to Mad Magazine removed from the movie. So there was a statue of Alfred E. Newman at some point. They cut that out of the movie. There was a guy like in an Alfred E. Newman mask at the beginning and end of the movie. They cut that all out. And the movie was made by Warner Brothers. Time Warner then bought Mad Magazine and put it all back in.
How much drama for this terrible movie.
It is astoundingly bad.
Fantastic soundtrack, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. It has one of the best soundtracks. This no joke. This is the most skewed movie quality to soundtrack quality ratio. It's like all these great late 70s punk / new wave bands. So, you got Blondie, you got Boomtown Rats, you got Eddie and the Hot Rods, Nick Lowe is in there. It's like Iggy Pop, all this stuff in this movie that is like getting a prostate exam from Captain Hook. It is the worst.
It is also a movie that knows that the soundtrack is the best part of it, because there's dialogue and then somebody like grabs the volume and turns up the music.
Oh yeah, the music definitely drowns out the goings on in the movie.
They didn't have to make it that obvious. That's crazy.
It's on Amazon Prime. I think it's $1.99. And I defy you to make it through.
And ask for a refund.
Oh.
Well,
Don't do it.
as we get wrapped up here, because I don't want to keep anyone too long tonight, with all the rain and everything going on, then we might lose our internets over here. John won't, because he's in Columbus, but so okay, let's say this thing actually happens, and they actually get a tournament rolling. What are the Blackhawks' chances? Now, I've gone on record as saying I don't,
You see
sure,
that's your IQ and their chances, buddy.
yeah,
Little Mike
there you
Ditka
go.
for you.
There you go.
You've got a better chance of seeing Richard Simmons Jr.
Bazinga!
Nice. I mean, something could happen in a 3-game series. Actually, something could happen, and they could make it, or a 5-game series. They could make it to the actual playoff. Some could happen. Anything crazy could happen in a 5-game series. Like weirder things have happened. I'm not going to say they could get past Edmonton, but something weird could happen where Corey Crawford gets hot for 3 games or whatever, and something happens. But after that, all bets are off. They cannot advance anywhere. Even if they were able to miraculously make it through this play-in thing, this mercy killing thing that you got going on, and you got Nick Gismondi going, well, let's go, guys. They could win it all. They could do it all, which is just a complete disservice to any Blackhawks fan that they would do that.
Here's my other question. So the Lightning had to shut down camp because they had what? How many COVID cases did Tampa have? 5, 6?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so they had to shut down camp. Now, what happens if they manage to light this candle and get it going, and then all of a sudden a team starts having a COVID breakdown and they need to shut down? Does that mean that they forfeit and whoever they were playing advances?
I don't know.
They don't
I
know,
guess they're
and
gonna
that's
have
why
to.
this is not going to happen.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They don't have anything nailed down.
Yeah.
They're just making up as they go
That's
along.
why I'm supremely confident this is not going to happen.
We would
No.
stand a better chance with Commissioner Buttman from Bone Cop, Bad Cop. And
There's your HockeeNight bingo.
we needed a Bone Cop,
Bone Cop,
Bad
Bad Cop.
reference.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix, by the way.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to watch that.
Both of them, actually,
That
Bone
you
Cop,
should
Bad
watch.
Cop, and Bone Cop, Bad Cop 2, which I have
And-
not seen.
And on Amazon Prime, I'm going to watch the roller hockey documentary from the Roller Hockey International or whatever it was. I think they have the beach hockey in there too.
And I just found out today that Cobra Kai is coming to Netflix, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
Boy, you guys are going to be busy this summer
Oh, yeah.
with these fine flicks you have going on.
Damn right. I'll be up on my roof with my iPad watching Cobra Kai.
That doesn't sound like a bad plan right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of wraps up with the Blackhawks stuff right now. I guess we're not going to really know until, I mean, it's the draft lottery isn't going to really affect the Blackhawks this time around. So,
But every team has balls in the thing this time. So even the teams that would have made the playoffs anyway have ping pong balls in the lottery, I believe.
it's something weird like that. I think the Blackhawks still do, but they have less of a chance or something like that. I think they tried to make it so that the teams that are in the top 5 all pretty much almost remain there. It was something weird like that. Like they want Detroit to pick first because they deserve to pick first. And
Yeah, they're not gonna. There's no way that the Hawks are gonna homer their way into a number 3 pick.
no, not again. So they're going to probably be picking in the 9, 10, 11 range, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
So
we'll
I'd like
see.
to see him pick a forward, or if they want, if they could pick the goalie, I wouldn't hate that either. Even though it's a swing, it's a big swing, big homer swing, but it's worth trying something a little different because what they've been doing hasn't been working. So
Yeah, they'll do what they always do though. Best athlete available, best player available at that spot.
yeah, right.
You know, you
Yeah, a
can
guy-
look for specifics when you're in the top 5. After that, you just take the best guy.
Yeah. So
And trade him
I
to
don't know.
Phoenix.
What's that?
I said, and then
Trade-
trade him to Phoenix.
Bazinga!
Yeah,
So shall we wrap this up, Johnny?
yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right. I don't have any last plugs except for Puck Hockey, puckhockey.com. If you've gone out there, you've seen they got their new Slayer stuff, so you know that hits close to home.
UCKHCKY.com.
We're here to witness Slayer.
And
Release the Slayer fans.
head over there, pick up some Slayer stuff, pick up some Lamb of God, whatever, Exodus, all that stuff's there. Use the Rink, check out, and you get some money off on that. Follow us on all your 10%. Follow us on all the social medias at the Rink Official. I think you guys know where to find us on all that stuff. www.the-rink.com. And I do want to say, I know John might want to add in too. We want to give best wishes to Mario Terbasi. He announced that he's going to be kind of stepping away. He's been a soldier for us for years now, and one of the founders that founded it with us. And we want to wish him well. He's going to start a podcast, and he might do some writing too. He just needed to take some time for himself to do his thing and boost his career up a little bit. I don't think we were doing enough boosting of the career. So
He's
but
a
we
top
love
guy.
Mario.
He's going to do well.
Yeah,
Mario's,
for sure.
Mario's cut out for big things, and
Yeah.
he, Mario and Aaron Goldschmidt were the two guys who joined us right away when we started the Rink 3.5 years ago, and he's he's done a great job, and we always knew that Mario is headed for big things in a full-time media type of career. And I don't know if that's what's next for him, but he'll get there eventually. In the meantime, he's picked up a lot of friends and admirers along the way, and we
unlike
will
us.
remain, we will remain his friends and admirers, even though we don't have any ourselves to speak of. But no, we still have a great staff. Aaron Goldschmidt is still holding over from the very beginning, and we've built up quite a crew that are still with us and ostensibly will be with us, and which we're very gratified to be able to say. And so, but all the best to Mario. Great guy, great talent.
Yeah, for sure.
He'll be missed.
Oh, I got a quick question then, because we talked offline before we started. Does this mean you don't want us to kill him now?
Not on the record.
Oh, Peter Patter, let's get at her.
Yeah, we made no Letterkenny references tonight.
Yeah, I got a couple in here, but I went with the Bazingas. I knew that was a little more relevant at this point in time.
Yeah. Taste it.
Well, if you get a chance, head over to the podcast. If you're listening to this on the podcast side, head over to iTunes, rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Thanks to Shady for the new review that he put up for us. I appreciate that, my boy. Gone to a couple metal shows with him. And you guys got anything you need more to plug? Your podcast?
Yeah, we're doing the podcast again.
Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's not really hockey related, other than that one time Joe Yurden called in. Talk about Police Academy. Was that 5, 6? I can't remember.
I don't even remember. But
anyway, we're just
this week
doing random shit and talking to each other.
Yeah, and we watch a movie every week. So this week I'm really looking forward to this week because CT has still never seen Commando. So at some point in the next 2 days, he's going to watch Commando for the first time.
Oh man,
I'm excited.
We're excited for you.
Closely.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, JJ, I had to laugh because you mentioned that one continuity thing. I saw it today, and I just burst out laughing.
Am I right?
I've probably seen Commando like 25 times. I never noticed that.
Watch the yellow Porsche.
Watch the yellow Porsche, and don't forget CT. Como esta? Como esta is the best line in the movie.
All right.
That's awesome.
I'm ready.
Well, I think that's a good way to end it right there.
It sounds so just.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I guess thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to download, listen, support, and watch us. Until next episode, see you on the rink.